As China's top legislature deliberates the decision to make a national security law for Hong Kong, the city is back in the spotlight. In the first of our series, Voices on Hong Kong, I talked to a former Hong Kong legislator about the decision. And China has been accused of using so-called wolf warrior diplomats to increase its influence around the world. But what's driving China to pursue active defense? Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you live from Beijing. I'm Li Xin. As China's top legislature, the National People's Congress deliberates a decision to enact a national security legislation for Hong Kong. Violent protests again erupted in the city on Sunday. The Hong Kong SAR government said the violence proves the urgency and need for such a law. Nearly 23 years since its return to Chinese rule, the Hong Kong SAR has not yet enacted a national security law under Article 23 of its basic law. Some believe the absence of such a legislature increases notable national security risks, as exposed during the unrest that's plagued the city since last year. Why is the central government acting now, and what kind of difference will the legislation make in Hong Kong? In the first episode of our new series, Voices on Hong Kong, I had the pleasure of talking to Rita Fan former president of the Legislative Council of Hong Kong. She was also a member of the Standing Committee of the 11th and 12th sessions of the National People's Congress from 2008 to 2018. So, as we understand, 23 years after Hong Kong's hand back to Chinese rule, the Special Administrative Region has yet to fulfill its legal obligation to enact the national security law under Article 23 of Hong Kong's basic law. You were a member of Hong Kong's Legislative Council from 1983 and also the first president of the Hong Kong Legislative Council after 1990. Tell us, what were the obstacles and how things changed over the time?
Well, the first time when the first chief executive, Mr. Tung Chee-hwa, tried to make this law, there was a lot of negative reaction because people are concerned about their freedom, their rights, like freedom of speech, freedom of the press, so on. And Mr. Tung and his team made a number of amendments. As a result, it has become more or less acceptable. But there are still diehards who are very much against it. The people who nowadays we call them the opposition. And at the very last moment, the Liberal Party got cold feet. And they decided that they were going to abstain instead of support. So the government do not have sufficient vote. And so the bill was withdrawn. Ever since then, there has been all kinds of attempts trying to make this Article 23, this national security law, a very, very bad impression on all the people in Hong Kong. It's a scare tactic, and it is being used now, starting last year, more than ever. Sadly, for Hong Kong people, we feel actually our freedom and human rights are being compromised to a very large extent by the rioters. We call them the black masked people. And they just not only vandalize everything like the mass transit, the traffic lights, but most importantly, they harm, they cause bodily harm. They hit people who do not agree with them. Yesterday we have 2 cases already. One is a lawyer in his 40s, and he probably a bit outspoken and then disagreed, and he was chased, hit by over 10 people, and he ended up in the hospital. Another lady was trying to remove the roadblocks which was placed in the middle of the road to stop all the traffic by the rioters, and when she tried to remove the roadblock, she was also attacked and she fell to the ground. What happened to her, we don't know yet because she hasn't come forward to the police yet.
Right. From a due process point of view and from the legal basis point of view, of course, China has studied this, and this is a decision in the making for quite some time. But how would you explain it to our international audiences who do not understand the nuances? What exactly is the legal basis for the National People's Congress to take over or to step in, let's say, on this very important job? Does that deprive Hong Kong of its responsibility to enact on Article 23 eventually?
First of all, Hong Kong's responsibility, constitutional responsibility to enact Article 23 is still there. But of course, if there is a national security law which covers Hong Kong, then the future legislation for Article 23 must coordinate with that one. That's the first thing. Secondly, the international community, as represented by the statement issued by the United States, 3 of the Commonwealth countries and the European Union, I've read them all. I think they just didn't get the point. They are saying that this legislation, national security law, is going to destroy one country, two systems. It's going to destroy Hong Kong's sort of special status. Well, it's just the contrary. If they care to look and read the proposed decision to be voted on by the National People's Congress, they will realize that the first thing, the most important thing, is to keep one country, two systems going. It is also extremely important, and in fact that is in the first article of that proposal, is to ensure that Hong Kong's people's rights and freedom is protected. So if they care to read the thing, just read it. It's not too much. It's just 2 pages. Instead of jumping to conclusion. Now, I know that they have been receiving half-truth news all this time, last year, starting from last year's riot, because what they see in their main media is the police hitting back or trying to defend. But they never show the rioters throwing gasoline bomb or using arrows, shooting arrows. So the Western world has a one-sided story. People who are living in Hong Kong, who are Westerners, they know what is happening, but they don't get coverage. The main media have already got their own agenda. I'm very sorry about that.
Right, and yet over the weekend there have been quite, I would say, not a small scale of protests, and actually over 180 people were arrested by the Hong Kong police. So how would you look at the public opinion of the Hong Kong people? Exactly what is the level of public support for this kind of legislation? Are there more people in support of it? Are there more people who are against it? Are there more people who are welcoming, who are desperately welcoming this kind of legislation? How would you describe the public sentiment on the ground?
Well, there are a group of people who are collecting support for this legislation, collecting signature for this legislation, and up to date I think they have more than 2 million people who have signed and who have also given them their Hong Kong ID number, so there is no double counting. But of course the opposition, they will claim that they have more support. I think as time goes on, in the past, maybe some of our middle class and young people, they would think that the government is very suppressive and therefore they have to do something. But in fact, Hong Kong government is probably one of the most service-orientated government, which is not authoritative at all. Can you imagine if a policeman in New York is being hit or being attacked, would he not pull his gun? Well, there will be death, but there is no death resulting from our police action. We have tried our best to try to keep order, but we are not here to destroy. The opposition, on the contrary, is here to destroy. They go to the United States, they ask the United States to make a law to enable the United States to deprive Hong Kong of any special status and to punish those in Hong Kong who are standing up against the opposition. Why should a Chinese, or maybe they don't think they are Chinese, but why should the Chinese go to a foreign country to ask for help? Maybe the foreign country has been helping them all along. Maybe the resources, the money that's coming into Hong Kong, being distributed to people who participate in violent action. Maybe there is some reason behind it. I am not a detective. I'm not a police, so I can't say more. Yes.
What do you think will be the implication for relations between China and the United States because of this move? I mean, the United States president has actually warned that the U.S. would react very strongly if the bill was approved. And last year, there was also this U.S. legislation which very strongly positioned the United States in a stronger position to interfere in Hong Kong's affairs. How do you look at this legislation and its impact on the position of Hong Kong for the United States in this part of the world?
I think the United States under President Trump has been trying every possible means to stop the development of China as a global power. So Hong Kong is an easy prey. Hong Kong is an international city. We are a city without border. You can come in and out. And people with very dubious background can easily come into Hong Kong. And Hong Kong's young people can easily go to Taiwan or to the United States or to Europe. We know that in Taiwan, they go there and they are quite open about it. They receive some training. And in Hong Kong, we have also videos on the internet where we see foreigners training them how to shoot an arrow. I think Hong Kong is the victim of the Trump administration trying to dominate the world and put down China. And if Hong Kong is not there, they will find something else. I'm afraid this is going to go on for a while until it becomes clear to the whole world that violence and instigation, subversion, succession, all these things really doesn't help the well-being of the human race. Let's put down the weapon. Let's talk. Let's trade. That is to the benefit of everyone.
Finally, there are many who are arguing and who actually to a certain degree are right that although there have been massive unrest, there have also been a lot of peaceful protesters on the streets of Hong Kong, and they have genuine aspirations for greater degree of better governance, of democratic rights, to safeguard their freedom and rights. Instead, I doubt all of the people can be characterized as some kind of a national security threat to Hong Kong. So with this new legislation, what would be potential effect on them? Does such a legislature risk antagonizing some of these people and deterring them from speaking out for a better Hong Kong in the future?
Certainly not. The national security law, we haven't seen the details of it because you have first to decide by the MPC has to take a decision and then the standing committee has to make a draft. But the main thing here is it will not affect our normal activity. And peaceful demonstration is definitely a normal activity. Our freedom of press, our freedom of expression, again, these are all enshrined and protected by the basic law. No law that is passed by the Standing Committee of National People's Congress or by the Hong Kong Legislative Council will contradict this. Apart from that, in the basic law, we also ensured that the Human Rights Bill in Hong Kong is still under the statute book And of course, the International Covenants on Civil and Right is also enshrined. And therefore, the national security law is only for those who try to separate the country, who try to overthrow the government, and against those who come into Hong Kong from foreign bodies or power to interfere with Hong Kong's internal affairs. And last but not least, Terrorist Act. This covers a very, very, very small percentage of Hong Kong citizens. Our right, in fact, when that national security law comes into order, some of us will be very happy because our freedom and right is restored. Now, during weekend, particularly in the evening, we dare not go into the shopping mall because we don't know when these black mask people will start their rioting. We dare not walk in Mong Kok Street in the evening because we don't know whether we'll suddenly meet with them and then they start demanding certain things from us. Last year, towards the end of last year, there were people driving cars on the road and they were stopped by the blockade set up by the rioters, and the rioters go and ask them, do you support our cause? Now if the driver says, yes, I support your cause, then the rioter will say, well, in that case you better donate to us, donate some money to us. If you dare to say you do not support their cause, then they will hit your glass with their iron rod and whatever, and the whole car will be damaged. This is scary, very scary for law-abiding people in Hong Kong.
I see.
Let's get back.
Let's hope that this legislation will maintain, will restore the law and order and uphold the freedom and rights of the Hong Kong people and keep the whole country secure. Many thanks to Rita joining us from Hong Kong.